Oh, God. All right, we got to do this again. Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It's August 15th now. If you listen to the last episode, it was August 14th, so we're trucking. We're now like...
You're saying a bit sort of disheveled, James. I'm full of vim and vigor over here. I don't know what your problem is.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I understand your point.
Well, the other point I would make is it's always been August 15th for me.
That's true. I'm approaching hour 21 of today, so things are getting a little dicey at the moment, but that's okay. We'll just get through it. I am James. That's Greg. You know that. It's the same people who are on the show all the time, John and Guillaume, who, if you listen to the last episode that came out, are absent. I think John's back next week. That's what he told us. But, hey, we've been surprised before by John, and I don't just mean in that he says something horrible, like he's not going to tip anyone ever because his money's more important than your well-being. Paraphrasing. Just in general. Yeah, hey, we're back. We're doing another Spoilercast. This time we're doing it for Donkey Kong Bananza. I want to be specific, though. This is the 100%ers Club Donkey Kong Bananza Spoilercast because Greg and I have completed a 3-star save file of Donkey Kong Bananza. Why is it 3 and not 5? Because they ran out of things to count to give you 2 more stars. That's as near as I can tell. I thought maybe...
I can't even remember how they strung it out to 5 in stuff like 3. I think it was like 3D Land and 3D World both managed that. I mean, I guess one of the things you haven't really got an analog for here might be the doing all the top of the flagpoles.
Yeah, other characters.
And stuff like that. So, yeah, I guess it's stuff like that. But still, I think it was a bit of frippery going on with the 5 stars, to be honest.
Right. But... a game, the only thing that I don't have all of is I don't have all of the upgrades because you have to buy so many fucking bananas to get them.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, if you get all the sort of predefined bananas and maybe one of those for each layer is buying one. Right. That's part of the checklist is buying one from the shop for each layer, which there was a very similar thing in Odyssey, right?
Yes.
You could buy a moon and then that was like one
on the
task.
Checklist. Right.
But then you could keep buying them if you with the particular currency or whatever that was like in that layer or something, I forget, and then you could, in that kingdom rather, in that case. And yeah, that could essentially, if you didn't like the idea of, going out and finding enough, because that did have, quotas in a way that Bananza mostly does not, that you sometimes you might lean on that. To like maybe get the last few moons that you needed to meet a particular quota, maybe. Whereas here, presumably, it's much more, just filling out that skill tree. So you could buy a bunch of ones as you get that the chips, is it the chip
Banana
coins
chips,
or the
yes.
Banandian chip coins? And then build out the skill tree faster than you're collecting unique bananas. But yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe if you get all the unique ones, that would equate to filling out the tree. But it turns out, no, there's still a few slots left. And even though I then went and said, okay, let's see how many can I buy with all the vast quantities of the chip coins that I've amassed, I still wasn't full.
Nope.
It was close, but it still wasn't full. So... yeah, I don't know that really matters terribly much. The particular part of the skill tree I didn't invest in was the extra, like the canned apple, essentially.
Oh.
Where the health like refills because you've got a stored one. That was the thing I invested in last, and so it still isn't maxed out.
I went hard into that early on because some of the boss fights, there's just a lot of shit going on. Like, it's going to be on lava, too, because fuck you, I guess. And I was just like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to get through these, so I'm just going to go all in on my apple juice. For me, it was 2 of the... So, you get the forms, and then after the... Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is for spoilers. Like, we're going to spoil anything and everything is fair game in this. So if you
deepest spoilers, absolutely everything fair game.
If you have not played Bananza to completion or don't want to hear this stuff, last warning. After you clear the game the first way, you get the opportunity to go do the what do they call them? The not remixes.
The rehearsals.
Rehearsals, yeah.
There's still this sort of conceit of like, well, you're preparing for a performance, right? But it's like it's going to be Pauline's big show, topside in this case. But yeah, they're still called rehearsals, I think.
Yeah, and that's through each of the forms, and then also one for the end game of the teal port mega one. I can't remember what they call it.
The biggest eel, like the mother of all the other eels, or whatever.
Yeah, and there's a you get an upgrade for clearing those. You get a special power that you have to unlock all the skills and max them out for that form, and then you get access to this last skill. I didn't upgrade 2 of them. The one for the snake and the one for... I can't remember the other one I didn't do. I definitely did the elephant.
They're like gold creating moves, isn't it? So it's like with the snake, it's like the shockwave that it creates when it does the spring jump. Like that becomes a gold generator. Kind of similar to the way that, with the other ones, like the Kong Bananza, the wind-up punch is gold, but a spawning punch. So
I didn't need any of those because I had the elephant one, which everything in the way of its suction generates gold, but also harvests the gold at the same time.
Yeah, it's more efficient, isn't it? Really, all round.
The highest my gold ever got was about 200,000. And the elephant plus the Heart of Gold stage played a major role in that number, and also the outfit that I had Pauline wearing.
In the post game, Pauline gets an outfit, the little miner outfit, so you can kind of match with DK. She can have the helmet on and all that, and then that doubles double the amount of the value of the gold you can. And then in the post game, there's just feels like there's more gold about, and so certainly when you go back to that introductory area and they kind of retrofit it to be more of an actual level, right? You get like a bunch of the kind of recurring tasks show up in there now, and you get the boss rush and the just general like lesser enemy kind of rush kind of sequence as well. A bunch of extra bananas to collect, but it's just dripping in gold everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's so much that you could say, and with that outfit on Pauline, you can rake it in pretty fast. Now it does have those things you have to kind of build them, and they do cost like significant quantities of money, and it's like a really big amount of gold that Grumpy Kong asks to like restore it to its pre-calamity kind of state. It's like 120,000 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But at that point, it's kind of clearly expected. Like, you should be raking it in at this point, so like you can afford this.
Yeah, also, when you do the 120,000 golden statue, which you can then use to refill your gold.
Yeah, that's as long as you confront it, you could get it back real fast.
Poppy gives you a tie that makes you invisible, which is like weirdly unusable as a consequence.
It's so weird. It's such a weird thing. I mean, I get it is kind of like in keeping with a certain amount of like ultimate like rewards, which are effectively useless, that you've seen over the years. But this one is because just like up front, I think she says like, oh yeah, you'll be invisible, but like the enemies can see you. Yeah, basically.
She says words it exactly as, "Oh, you'll become invisible, but only to yourself. Enemies and friends will still see you."
No, exactly. So basically, like, it changes nothing other than just it's cosmetic. Which I know it ties into what Poppy does in her boss fight. She cloaks herself essentially. So it's like, I guess this is something that makes sense for being like her thing, but it.
It actually makes it harder to play because now you can't see
cool,
DK anymore.
Would, wouldn't it? No.
It's the worst. It's so bad. But like, I didn't really use it. I used the fucking soggy cravat every time because that makes you immune to fire and lava, which makes a lot of the post game stuff really trivial. So yeah, like we could talk about it. So we want to talk about some of the stages we like, because we kind of avoided talking about stages on the show because, except for maybe some really early stuff, because part of the joy of this game is actually like you've wandered into a new stage. Oh God, what am I about to confront down here? Because the first stage you get into, besides the mine, which you're not in very long, is like this beach resort populated by weird pastel apes. Which is interesting, but not that weird. But as you go through, you start running into some, strange settings, some unique stages. And so like we didn't really want to talk about that too much during the show regular, because that denies other people the opportunity to have the experience to just stumble into this stuff blind. And so I enjoyed that personally. So just kind of going through talking about stages we think are notable or stages, layers that we think are notable or interesting, or we just kind of want to talk about. I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about the Diddy Kong stage. I'm trying to remember what they call it.
Is it sort of like just a racing layer? Is that right?
Yeah, it might just be like racing layer.
No, that was interesting. It did seem quite out of place, that one. My speculations about how this thing came to be.
SL 1100 is what it is called.
Yeah, they are just speculations, obviously. But it did seem like it was something that might have been inserted into, the sort of out of sequence, if you like. It did kind of feel like it was just a complete kind of swerve from the general progression that you had going deeper and deeper towards the planet's core. And it just kind of felt like maybe someone somewhere at some point kind of felt like we could use with something else here, some kind of change of pace, to kind of mix it up. And then, that was kind of slotted in to the Jenga tower, from outside. Because like you look at the assets and everything, like, it's the ground is kind of from the hill layer, that early one with the kind of bluegrass and like you kind of doing a lot of the turf surfing with that. And then, you've got elements from the Ingot Isle beginning phase, because narratively they're like, oh, well, this is where some of the people went, that got sucked into the whatever weird sphere of calamity, like goes off at the beginning.
And then fell 1,000 layers.
Yeah, way deeper than you did, like, and got trapped. But then they're like, well, actually, we could just kind of set up shop here and race some Rambies. So it definitely does kind of come out of nowhere, and is like an early, well, not early, I should say, but like certainly before we get to the end of the game, where references to other Donkey Kong games really go off the hook. Like this is another hint that it's like, yeah, they might be referencing quite a lot of DK's past here, because I think in that layer they even talk about Candy Kong.
They do,
which I would avoid that if given the choice.
Not really a decision I would want to do, but like so Diddy's down there, who we didn't see any indication that Diddy was working in the mine, and also I'm blanking on her name, not Tiny, is it Trixie?
Dixie,
Dixie,
and so they're there, and they have little like cute little quotes about, like, oh yeah, one time, we even went on a mission to rescue DK, like, which obviously is Donkey Kong Country 2, where DK is kidnapped by the Kremlings, and that is Diddy and Dixie, the playable characters and stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is what we're doing down there. Funnily enough, really should have been like the one area where I was looking for him the most, but that was one of the last Crankies I found in the 100% run. He's like tucked away.
Oh, yeah, he's a little tough to find. That's the other thing, is that Cranky is all over this game. In every layer, we talked about this. There are challenges that get reprised at every layer, and one of them is Cranky is in it. And basically, he just berates you. I found most of them after I had already beaten the boss of the game. And so his approach to talking to, like, he goes and he rants about, if you weren't busy mining, you would have been able to protect the island, so I had to come down here with Rambi. And then he's like, but you already beat the guy, so I guess it's fine. Here's a banana. I'm like, why are you yelling at me then?
Yeah, I know. But I guess it's just, old man yells at cloud stuff, mostly.
That one actually, I think I found that one relatively quickly because I climbed the trophy and was like looking down at the world and just going like, oh, is that him? Oh, let me go find him. Let me go back over there and get him. But yeah, that one's weird because it's like they had this mini game.
The thing about it is a lot of the time Rambi is the clue, right? Like if you see Rambi in a layer somewhere, but you don't necessarily see Cranky, it's like, oh yeah, but he won't be far. Like, because that's Rambi's his conveyance for getting down through these layers or whatever. So like, but in that case, there's loads of Rambi's about. Because that's the whole the concept of the layer that people are racing Rambi, so it kind of clouded my usual Cranky radar, and he was tucked away somewhere, and I found him pretty late. But it's just it is very like small explorable area, really, isn't it? That one, because it's this kind of single concept, really. I mean, there are other bananas to get, like Cranky and some of the others. There's like, I think the quiz guy is there, etc., etc. These recurring ones. But generally speaking, you're there to do the race. You can do it again. That's pretty much it.
Right. And the race is kind of weird. So you're racing on Rambies, and there's two effects. There's the switch, which was introduced in a previous layer, where it switches what the terrain is made of. It's either made of dirt or it's made of mud, and mud slows you down. Dirt, you just kind of pass through like it's nothing. But Rambi, I don't know, eats it and then farts the rainbow cloud material when you want to. So you press a button, and there's a material, and I can't remember what they call it. It has a name. But essentially, if you pick it up off the ground, you'll float.
Yeah, it's kind of like activating like a little jet or something. It just sort of spray comes out of the bottom of the stone, and it starts shrinking as it. So it limits how much it can propel you upwards, but it will. Yeah, as soon as you grab it, you're just on your way up. And so Rambi can generate this, but I guess it's got mechanically, it's kind of interesting. I feel like it as an idea. Is that okay? So if you kind of consume like regular ground, you can kind of move through that relatively quickly,
right? And
that can fuel a turbo boost.
Correct.
But you've got these like switches that swap out regular ground for muck, and you get mired in that. That's you go super duper slow. And the other thing is, if you use the turbo boost, you go up in the air, as is appropriate for what that stone is. But it also leaves that trail behind you that your opponent can kind of use, right? Like they go faster on that as well and can kind of trade it. But so I guess it's like kind of like a bit of a catch-up feature, that obviously a lot of racing games feel like they need, because it's just too boring if somebody gets out in front and there's no real mechanism for them to get brought back to the pack other than the mistakes. So I kind of get all of that. Problem is that the race is not necessarily like that long or enough participants for any of this to really come into play fully. No. Like I think when I sort of, especially beating it the second time, it was just a case of like, okay, I'll build up enough of the, run through the terrain that doesn't slow you down too much, enough to fill up that meter, and then I can just skip a big corner. Right. And that's it. I'm going to win at that point, and it's over.
So I for whatever reason, it never occurred to me. So it's a ring, and there's a hole in the middle, and the power up that you can discharge doesn't just make you fast and leave a cloud behind you. It actually raises up in the air as it goes. So like you build a big arc, and so this is actually, there are enemies that have the same effect. If you kick them, they leave an arc of this material that goes up until it trails off. And you could just use that to cut the corners on the race. For whatever reason, this never occurred to me. And so I was trying to win the race fair. And Diddy Kong doesn't win the race fair. Diddy Kong starts the race ahead of you and is constantly hitting the switches to leave you in muck. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, in the muck. No, exactly. Yeah.
Like, once I realized that, wait, I can just cut the corner, I beat it on the first try.
No, it is. I think the first time I did I didn't find it too difficult again because without cutting the corner, the first version of the race, because again, like Diddy, will use the sort of the turbo boost, and the irony of that is you can actually use it to gain ground on him.
Right.
Because, like I said, you get to run on that ground and it will speed you up. And
he leaves a big trail for you.
You can skip areas that might have had muck in or whatever. So, and then, of course, you can still have in reserve, having not had to make it yourself, to do some more turbo boosting after you've kind of coasted on his. So it's definitely kind of a natural like catch-up mechanic, that they've put into it. But like I said, it's just the whole thing isn't really complicated enough to leverage it in interesting ways, I would say. It's just kind of, it's there, it's a novelty, it's a change of pace, it's kind of, something that's, kind of, it feels like at some point they felt like they needed something to just have inject some variety into it, which is interesting because we did have an email about that, didn't we? About this explicitly about the. Well, I was impressed actually. Given we didn't give people terribly much time, obviously with the going from the last week's episode to this week's recording to talk about with any thoughts I might have had about the two games, Xenoblade X and Bananza, doing Spoilercast, and that was the theme was that we had was about the level variety, and they weren't terribly impressed by it. I think it was Justin, was it?
I'm looking for it.
The interesting thing for me about it was I could kind of see that in a sense, but I mean, and I feel like that racing layer was probably put in there perhaps because even, the developers were thinking maybe we need some extra variety. But I would say for me, it wasn't like a big like sticking point or anything because what I felt was present with the different layers, more so perhaps than their kind of aesthetic creativity or diversity, was like these different gameplay elements that would keep coming in, that you would keep getting different kinds of materials or sort of stage gimmicks that would freshen it up. And of course the different bonanzas as well, right? Like each time you would get a new one of those, it would introduce a new way of playing, different kinds of challenges. So I would say overall I don't think variety was like a big problem for the game, because like I said, you think about all the different types of materials. We talked about those, that lift kind of stone that propels you up in the air, but
right.
You've got all these different things, like throw in those like acorns to make the kind of plant bridges in the forest layer. You've got the whole like muck and salt stuff that's going on in the feast layer, where it's like, okay, you've got these kind of like monsters that are coming out of this green slime, but you can they're slugs, right?
Yeah.
So salt dissolves them, like, or the kind of boom blocksy kind of stuff that we talked about with exploded, materials, and explosive kind of stuff. The rubber. And how you can like it's something you can't smash, but you can bounce off it and get up to other heights. All these kind of different platforms, different materials. They felt like mechanically they kept introducing photosensitive stuff, right? The
right.
levels where the layer where the suns have been switched off, and you've got things that become easy to kill when they've got light on them, but there's not a lot of it. So you've got to kind of open up shafts of light or kite
radiance
things towards
layer,
shafts of light.
the
radiance layer, yeah. Which is, ironic at first because it's one of the only dark layers in the game.
Right.
But you do restore it to its full radiance, and then you see, that in itself has quite a bit of variety just in that layer, right? Because it starts off really dark and you're kind of in these sort of very cave area, and then eventually you're in this almost like blindingly bright sort of white sand desert kind of area with all the snake iconography and the big sculptures of the Void Company trio and all this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, maybe it wasn't as strong on aesthetic variety as something like Super Mario Odyssey, but I don't think it was a real slouch in that either. But I would say it was the mechanical stuff that was the most important.
Right. So to read a little bit of Justin's email, are you disappointed at the lack of creativity that went into the different layers of DK Bananza, especially when considering the Odyssey team game was absolutely bonkers at times? The Odyssey levels oozed personality from the jump, where DK Bananza, every level felt predictable, almost entirely the same, except for two notable ones, the racing and the feast layer. And so the racing there was mostly a novelty, but the feast layer was a testament to the fun, unique kind of levels I would expect from this team. Standard ice, forest, sand, etc. worlds were fine, but I was hoping for more similar, sillier, and creative ideas. Until this game didn't deliver that virtually until the last full layer, when the game was basically done. I agree to an extent. I think part of it though is a setting thing, and this might be a cop out because whatever, it's DK game.
You could kind of make it whatever you want, but I think we might be pretty close on this in terms of I do feel like there was more of a priority, whether you consider it to be wise or not, of making it a cohesive journey than Odyssey was. We talked about this already, pre-spoilered stuff, like that it feels like there's a little bit more gone into kind of world building and a feeling of a direction, of just going straight down and we're going on this journey to a destination. The Odyssey was more freewheeling than that, and there's definitely benefits to that, but I could kind of see maybe how we ended up with this disparity.
Well, at a minimum, they kept a consistent visual style, because unlike Odyssey, where we never the worlds don't really ever cross, especially in the post game, the worlds cross quite a bit. There's a beach layer. I'm blanking on what it's called. It's probably going to be called the beach layer.
I think we all know.
Resort layer. I'm close.
Beach resort, yeah.
That in the post game, it's just full of characters from the other layers.
Yeah, no, there's very much a very strong thing of like, as you've opened it, the layers up, essentially the different like fractones or whatever, the different rock people, that take on like the different shapes of their, sort of the layer that they come from. They start showing up in other places and stuff. Yeah, so it's like the idea of like, you've connected the world. You've made it possible for people to, kind of come back together and, kind of interact with each other and stuff. I guess it's trying to make the post game thing feel a bit more sort of tangible, of like, the world has changed because of what you've done, because you've succeeded. Right.
I think the landfill layer though is kind of a missed mention, because this is a layer where when you start it, you're basically just in dirt. And it's like,
and again, this, to me, I feel like this is a case of mechanical sort of variation, iteration, rather than aesthetic, right? Because it's like, you're in a muck pit. It isn't the most like exquisitely artistically incredible concept to look at, but it is very much like, for a lot of the game, the extent to which you've just sort of bashed your way to an objective has been very optional, right? Like, it's like, you might have done that because you can, but you easily could have like avoided doing that, right? A lot of the levels have plenty of like orthodox signaling that isn't just based on, I've got to do the hand clap, the sonar, and then just like, bash my way brute force in a straight line to that point, completely ignoring any of the level design signaling that's going on. In reality, you might not have been doing any of that. Now, I think a lot of people will have done it, and maybe even especially like younger players who just like smashing everything to bits. It's just like, maybe it's just too tempting not to. But then you get to that layer and it's like, no, that is the point. That's what you do here. That's how you get to the goal. There isn't like a sort of a proper way of doing it, and then this is the other way that you can do if you feel like it. Like, no, the entire world is built around you tunneling through it your way. And again, aesthetically, is that some beautiful change of, sort of pace that completely freshens things up? No, but I think mechanically it's an important development, because it's like saying, okay, maybe that stuff that you've done just kind of for the hell of it, now you've got to actually put it to proper use, to like more full use where it's got a real defined purpose.
Right. It's as somebody who had been digging all along, like constantly digging, always burrowing, that level felt very welcoming in a way, even though it's literally a trash pit. But then it still has that moment of you broke through and now you're in what is effectively like trash camp, where they've made a little town in this pile of trash. That feels, it feels welcoming, even though it is just it's a dump. It's literally where the dump from it's where the trash from the other layers have ended up. And you can see that. Like, the layers above it show up in the trash.
No, exactly. Again, it's the sense of like the connectedness of the worlds there, that the other worlds feed into this place. And yeah, again, we talked about this a little bit, in more vague terms before, like just the tone and the world that they're building here being something that isn't like Mario quite, you know what I mean? Like that it does feel like it's a sort of an extension of, some of the things that Rare did back in the day with DK and with Banjo. I mean, the feast layer that's mentioned there, I mean, I couldn't help but think of Witchy World from Banjo-Tooie with that.
Yeah.
It's a theme park. Fast food is kind of like a pretty significant element in it. I mean, obviously,
it's a burger factory.
It's way bigger. In DK, there's way more to it. It's much more interesting. But the theme and the kind of like offbeatness of it, like there was some overlap there. And then like a layer made completely out of muck. Well, I can certainly think of a Rare N64 game that had that in it, and it wasn't DK or Banjo. But it just there's definitely something here where it's like we're trying to create a different kind of atmosphere, a bit of a different personality to it. And I think maybe that came with a little bit of a cost, like what Justin's talking about, in terms of it doesn't feel as kind of unbridled in its visual creativity as some of the, a Galaxy, would be another sort of touch point there as well. In terms of like that premise is so kind of open.
Yes.
It's like, we can have the giant like fortress that looks like a bloody Pokeball where half of it's water and like, just floating in space. And like, you could just come up with any weird thing that you can think of and just have it exist in this kind of vacuum, literal vacuum. Like, whereas with this, it does feel like, you're constraining yourself on purpose to try and make it feel kind of more immersive and cohesive. And, to how much that's going to pay off with different players. Yeah, I think, again, probably more payoff for younger players, I think, in terms of actually involving them in this journey. Whereas, for us older folks, maybe to some extent, it's more like, I just want to see cool stuff and I want to see different stuff, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that fussed about the scenario or whatever.
I actually liked it, though. Like, I liked the idea of underground, there's been all these layers of insane shit happening, and DK's been totally oblivious to them. And so now he's in the light, what do they call it? Tempest layer? Which is a layer full of an eternal thunderstorm overseen by, is it a moth? Like, they call it a bird, but it doesn't really look like a bird.
No, it does look more kind of moth, and it's, the weather forecast. That's the funny thing about
and like the weather forecast is it's going to thunder because that's what it does every day. And
I get they do have like, even like they have little references like to the other layers, don't they? Like sometimes like messages, and you've got that kind of thread of the fractome that's going on the journey to the planet called like you are, and they're sort of talking about their experience. But you'll get something like a message from the weather forecast people, like in a different layer and whatnot. So yeah, they're definitely trying to kind of build up the idea that it's this whole kind of multiple civilizations that have been going on beneath the surface that people seemingly weren't really aware of otherwise, but they've been sort of existing and coexisting for a long time, and it's all been happening. Like it's kind of an interesting choice to kind of put that much into it as they've done. But again, I feel like that's part of the fact that it's not a Mario game, so we're going to emphasize some different things, and maybe just to feel like with DK, maybe they need to build it up a bit again, because he hasn't been in that many unique games for quite a long time.
Right.
And even, if you go back to, DKC Returns, especially DKC Returns, like they're just reprising the level themes from the original DKC for a lot of that, and then, Tropical Freeze is a bit more sort of creative, but it's still firmly rooted in the old DKC sort of tradition. So, you maybe it's going to feel like making up for lost time of like, what does a sort of specific, unique DK kind of world feel like,
right?
And so that felt like they had to build that up more.
We it just occurred to me we were talking about two games back to back where the boss is named Void. So yeah. Is there any other levels I wanted to mention? Actually, I do want to mention the outfits a little bit. So. I like that the outfits are all themed around the world. That was true in Odyssey, so obviously where they lifted that from. But now you also have an outfit for Pauline, where hers seems much more themed. Like, DK's is usually mechanically themed around the world. Pauline's is often, like, cosmetically themed. So for a long time, I had her in the one from the Tempest Lair, because she's in a rain slicker that's got big dumb elephant ears on it, and I thought it was
they're related essentially to the people that live there,
right.
But also the Bananza, if it's one where there is a Bananza, for whether it's the zebra or the elephant, or it's going to be something that fits with that. So I would usually try and get the fossils and get her in the sort of layer appropriate gear, even if I wasn't really that bothered about the fact that it extended that Bananza for whatever percentage, or it's just like, no, it seems like I'm in this layer, she should be wearing the appropriate attire, I guess.
But I just kind of enjoyed having her around too, like the transition out of the lair chat a little bit. I want to say we had an email about this. Let me go back to my email list. But I thought the inclusion of her as kind of the sidekick, but also kind of the voice for DK, because DK doesn't talk, was actually really clever, because by making her roughly 13, I think it's what her age is, she can be capable of adult conversation. Like, she can be cognizant of what's going on around her and comment on it and plan and work through like an objective bigger than herself. But also she can kind of react with childlike wonder to the weird stuff they're encountering. So, they're trying to get to the planet's core so they can wish their way back to the surface, or in DK's case, so he can wish for a shitload of bananas. And at one point they hit the racing lair, and her response isn't like, okay, that's cool, we should keep going. It's like, whoa, we should do more races. And it's like, we're kind of racing Void Kong right now. We're in the middle of a race.
Yeah, it's kind of important what we're doing, more important arguably than perfecting the art of Rhino race.
But like, DK obviously won't need convincing to not do his job. That's sort of a running theme.
I do like the way that this kind of is one of the, it feels like they've looked at, clearly we've established there's lots of references to various DK game history kind of points. But like, it feels like they've sort of taken the idea of like, well, if you look at the old DKC games, Like when Donkey Kong was one of the playable characters, because he wasn't in 2 and 3.
Right.
What's the motivation? It's just getting the bananas back, right?
Right.
And then DKC Returns, it was just getting the bananas back. So basically, they're like, well, he can't have a motivation that isn't just bananas. Like that's his only one. It's not allowed that he can be motivated by something bigger than himself. But we could have another character and they can have an actual motivation. So it's kind of like, that's their way of kind of, having the cake and eat it. Is like, well, we like the idea of DK just being this sort of pure character that doesn't really have like rational or, advanced motivations. It's just appetite. That's all it is. But, if that was the sole premise again, that would be, not necessarily all that captivating, not enough to build this journey and this scenario out of. So we've got to have somebody else who's, who has a voice that can, kind of react to things and, in a more sort of normal way that isn't just about I'm big and strong and I eat stuff, and
I make big smash. Yeah.
It was a good kind of balancing act of like, kind of having DK just be this kind of force of nature, but still have a little bit more to the scenario than what you've had before. I guess Tropical Freeze, he's taking back his home rather than the bananas. So that's like the one time where, he's been dumped out of his home, but he's got to take it back. It's geography rather than appetite.
So, but the other factor is he does gain more objective than just bananas, because at the very end of the game, he gets to make his choice, and his choice is to help her, not bananas. Like they created a situation where she's also acting as his ego in the id-ego spectrum, and maybe even more of a super-ego, but like she's putting constraints around his just unbridled I want more bananas mentality, but also like they have a fun relationship together that I really enjoy. They're a fun pairing of individuals where he plays a certain amount of protector role, but also she kind of like puts order to the chaos that he just brings behind him at all times. That it's symbiotic in a very fun way.
Well, it's obviously you've had riffs on this on a lot of Nintendo games over the years, right? In terms of your Navi type character, and then all the successors to Navi. Like Midna, I think is probably the closest analog here in terms of it's like, yes, it is a kind of a helper character. It's someone that, can point things out at times, if the game's worried about people not getting what's going on, and so forth. But it's a fully integrated character, you know what I mean? It's a character that has its own, their own backstory, motivation, what they're going to get out of the journey and stuff, rather than it's a fairy that's a ball of light. And or indeed, even you could go after Midna, and you had less interesting companion characters like Fi in Skyward Sword. That's
right.
Just, yes, it's the spirit of the Master Sword. That sounds important, but it's just like, it's a dry C-3PO in practice. It just is not a very interesting character.
But I also think that we talked in the Xenoblade when we talked about character arcs and how the introduction of one character in the Definitive Edition helped another character have more context and more color. I think watching both DK and Pauline sort of reactions to one another evolve, be it in the various rest spot sleep sequences you get, or in the cutscenes, or even just like them idling around and interacting with each other, like in the Groove Lair where they're just dancing. And then even at the end game where she comes back down dressed as him, ostensibly seeking inspiration for a song she has to sing, but to a certain degree, it feels the implication is she just wants to hang out with him some more because she had a good time. And they're just going to go do more shit underground. And even, like, I think it's Poppy who makes a comment on it. Oh, I'm glad you two have managed to find each other again, or something along those lines. Because we like, even the bad guys in this game are more interesting than the majority of bad guys in Nintendo. Like, the fucking Brutals fucking suck by comparison. Like,
sure, yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like, I mean, they're just there instead of like Boom Boom or whatever, you know. It's like, well, at least it's the original character design.
Yeah, they're there to make a rabbit.
Just trotting Boom Boomer out for the however many time, or Bowser Jr. You know, sometimes, you know, just to get bopped 3 times or whatever. But yeah, I know what you mean in terms of like actually. No, I was kind of interested to see how much time they ended up giving to you know, sort of the ostensible sort of villains to like henchmen, but yeah, some of it's because they don't end up there, like they end up kind of not being you know, opponents anymore, and you kind of get to see them in different contexts. Also, those 2 characters, again, they very much seem like reclamations of like Rare era DK designs. Like, you know, we were talking about like Grumpy is kind of like Manky Kong
a bit, but less horrible.
But yeah, again, like just like, yeah, what if we actually did that character design idea, but not terrible? And then Poppy again is very much like, yeah, what if Candy Kong wasn't horrible? What if it was like an actually elegant design rather than just, oh god, it's just so bad, Candy Kong.
Elegant, not trashy is like the way of going for it. It's a much more mature character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a similar kind of concept, but just like, yeah, though, to do it way better is the key thing, I guess. But then, yeah, actually having them be, you know, antagonists, and then eventually, yeah, you know, they're helping you rebuild, you know, the Ingot Isle section and stuff like that. It just, yeah, pretty kind of, again, more that kind of world building, more of this kind of sense of like, these are actual characters, you know, than what you'd expect a lot of the time in the, you know, and again, you could debate whether that was worth investing in for, you know, the amount that you're going to get out of admittedly very modest kind of narrative experience like this. But yeah, I think it'll help. You know, I do think it'll help with, you know, players of a certain age and stuff like that to just get them more kind of immersed in that world and feel like it's, you know, kind of got a life of its own kind of going on with it. I think I do feel like there is some sort of payoff there.
I like that they've taken to founding their own company once they've rid themselves of Void. And one of the things they note is they found him while they were doing their work, and they're just like, yeah, we just let him go. Why? Whatever. He's not really.
That is pretty funny. I wasn't expecting that when I revisited that particular the Forbidden Layer.
Yeah,
which kind of reminds me of the Forbidden Zone in Planet of the Apes. It's like, God, what are we going to find? It's a little bit ominous.
It does mean you get the banana title that is Cranky's Forbidden Rant, which is like, whoa,
yeah, whoa, and it's like it's just all the same stuff. They just put the name of the layer in there every time, but still. And I mean, there's another interest, even that late, you know, a really interesting gimmick there, where it's like you create your own paths by throwing a chunk, and then it like spawns a trail.
Yes.
Like in the Forbidden Layer, you know, and then that's kind of a significant element in the boss sequence against Void, like where you're chasing him, is like, you know, you're creating these trails in the air out of chunks. So like, it's another element that they introduced there of, I think, very significant mechanical variety that, maybe as a, you know, doesn't register as like some big, you know, kind of creative level theme change, but for me, it's the stuff that did help it stay fresh, you know, all the way along. Really,
I actually thought that like the characterization in this is really sublime. Like there's a ton of characters I like, even the Fractones. Like you might think, well, they're literally tabula rasas. I mean, they are quite literally blank slates.
A googly eye slapped on them. I mean, again,
but like they're fun in their own way. Every stage has a bunch of characters that are interesting. Not a ton. I think.
Well, and also, it's funny when you get to the Forbidden Layer and they're not actually friendly there. That's the one place where they're not friendly. But then, like, there's again, because you've connected it up a few of the fractones from the other layers have shown up there and are like, oh, don't worry, we'll make them, sort of friendly with a bit of forced retail therapy or something.
Yeah, it's so weird.
We're going to start selling them shit and that'll perk them up.
It's so weird. And it does. Like, when you come back after the game, like, they are a little bit back to, like, a little bit more or less unpleasant. But there's, like, the big giant fractones you have to pay money to let you through. It's so weird. But
yeah, that's a relatively rare case of a little bit of gatekeeping quotas. Although with the gold, I mean, God, I had so much, pretty much all the time.
Oh, yeah, those were trivial.
Anything gold felt like it was kind of a formality, just pay it. I've got loads. It's fine. But yeah, it depends how you played it, I guess. Like I said, I was maintaining that consistent pace of wanting to get roughly, 2/3, 70% of the stuff in any given layer before I'd move on. Some of which I just kind of did naturally. Other times I kind of went back and, plugged some holes. But, doing that, I just had this huge surplus of gold basically all the way down. So any of those kinds of asks didn't register that much. If you were playing it a little bit more critical path, that might strike you as different. And then it might be a little odd to hear someone say, oh, well, there's no, sort of quotas or, it's very hands off. And I mean, it is for the most part, but I should, I guess concede the notion that, if you was really making a beeline for it, you would start to notice some of the things they put in your way a little more.
Yeah, I just really liked the world building. I liked what they were creating. I liked the idea. I liked how they presented the world. I liked Void as just like, no, I'm just going to mine. I'm here to mine for gold, and like everything else get the fuck out my way. He wasn't here to steal all the bananas. Like, he was just there to get gold, and that was his he was a gold collecting machine who became aware of the Banandium route, which is an insane phrase they created.
No, the Banandium thing in general, I don't know. I could just imagine that being in, one of those scenes where someone keeps saying Banandium and another character's like, can you please stop saying that word?
It does feel like a word Rare would have invented, though. Like, it absolutely feels like something that they would have told Banjo and or Kazooie to go find. Well, I could transform you, but I need 20 pieces of Banandium.
Well, again, let's put it in some sort of context. In terms of linguistically agreeable, Banandium or unobtainium?
Fuck. Can we just like burn down the planet from that movie? I'm fine with it. Yeah, Banandium, I guess. It's stupider. It's like they're both stupid. So, like, I guess I'll go with the one that's about a fruit that's also a gem that also has a sentient bunch. Did you realize the Banandium root is just a bunch of bananas that's sentient? I was not prepared for that. That can grant wishes. It's stupid. It's so, like, it's brilliantly dumb. And that's kind of why, like, at the end, so we're going to get to the end twist now, where you get to the gold core of the planet, and you find out that down there, all this time, Entombed has been following the adventures of Donkey Kong Country 3. Is 3's the one where he's a pirate, right?
He's a pirate in 2.
He's a pirate in 2.
And then he's a mad scientist in 3. I think Chaos, right? Isn't it?
Oh. Then why
so
is
it's like, the weirdest thing is that you fight him on a pirate ship in 1. But he's not a pirate.
No.
He's a pirate in the second one where you don't fight him on a pirate ship.
So yes, K. Rool is down there. He's been trapped down there for all these years.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like, I like the way they're incorporating like reality into it, with the idea of like, well, why haven't there been many games with obviously with Smash, right? So there is that, but he hasn't been in DK game. He wasn't in DKC Returns. He wasn't in Tropical Freeze. I mean, there was a moment that I had thinking about it when K. Rool popped up, which was like, Well, he was in that, was it Jungle Climber or whatever? The second.
Yeah, he was.
After King of Swing. Like, and that used the pre-rendered style, like DKC. So it was very much just like, look the same. And it's like, well, that was more recent. And it's like, yeah, but it was also nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that doesn't really matter. It's still perfectly valid to sort of leverage the idea of like, see, so it's actually, he hasn't been engaged because he's been trapped down here by his own greed. He went off trying to get all these sort of riches or whatever and got trapped doing it. So I have to say, it is telegraphed, but I didn't catch it, if you know what I mean. It's because, like, they say about, someone came through here before.
Right.
And, they got sort of trapped. And I was kind of thinking, they might be setting up like a super bad, the big bad that's behind, Void, another boss or something. I was thinking it would be like another Kong, like maybe a bad one.
I was thinking it was Void that they were talking about. So
God, there could even have been some sort of time travel thing, like whatever it is. It'd be something, right? It'd be something like, like Void is, or at least Void in his current form, is not going to be the ultimate kind of boss or something. So that much, like, I picked up on, but I guess it's just because even though, I had DKC for Christmas that the year it came out, I was as hyped up for that thing as anything, right? I mean, that was,
right
at the time, it was the hype, that was the biggest hype machine I'd ever known. For two reasons. First of all, you just had the kind of, the whole pre-rendered graphics kind of breakthrough and how aggressively they tried to sell that in the competition with the Mega Drive and everything, and the newer systems that were coming out, 32-bit systems. But critically here, the game was being made in Britain. So you had, my point of access for information about games was the magazines. They had access, to something that was massive. Like, for the first time that, really, you know what I mean? Like, you could have something like Star Fox was kind of similar, and it even involved talent from this country, but it wasn't made here. So you didn't have the same thing of, like, we can interview these guys, we can talk, they had connections in the press. So, like, DKC got blown out over here in a way I just had never seen before.
Right.
And trying to, especially like the official magazine, just trying to make you think it was gonna, shit gold, basically. I mean, it was just, the level of hype was ridiculous. And yet, once I actually got the game, I enjoyed it. It was impressive graphically. The music was probably the biggest takeaway of how good that was.
Oh, yeah.
But I was never really a fan of the Kremlings. Was not that jazzed about them. They just seemed too much like generic platform game villains, especially K. Rool himself. Is like, I didn't have Super Mario Brothers 2, but I had like the Nintendo Club Nintendo, whatever they called it over here, kind of stuff where they would, showed a lot of Mario 2 stuff, and you'd see Wart and you'd see Bowser in the cartoon Super Mario Brothers Super Show stuff, who looked a lot like Wart, because I think like there was a little bit of, kind of muddledness about who they were actually adapting in that cartoon. But it's like, God, and he just looked like that. It's just like, it's another green scaly guy with a crown. Like, that's so boring. So I don't think I wanted to think that they were going to bring it back, to be honest. But I will say, the moment when it happens, I did enjoy, because in many ways it just felt like a Smash Brothers reference.
Oh yeah,
it felt like it was referring to his reveal in the Sakurai produced trailers, where DDD is having his fun at DK and DD's expense, having pretended to be K. Rool. And then K. Rool just slaps him aside and it's like, no, I am actually back. And it is very much that moment, but just played. Void is in the sort of DDD role of like, oh yes, I'm going to get everything I want. And then bang, just one punch into the whatever the hell that is up there, some sort of Mario Galaxy looking banana planetoid thing.
Yes.
And they do mention he isn't dead, which I guess is some sort of, nod of the head to the idea of like, we can't kill anyone in games like this. That's not fair. Well, that's not nice for the kids or whatever. But it's like, come on, he's not surviving.
Hold on. All the stone creatures were filled with the skeletons of fucking Kremlings. They've
been fossilized. They've just been down there, really. They died a natural death. They haven't been sucked in the face into a planetoid. It's not the same.
K. Rool stuck them in stone because one of the characters, like one of the little notes, talks about how they've been trapped down there and turned into rock or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where did this shit come from?
It is dark, the notion that they just got trapped down there for so long that they ended up becoming like weird fossil versions of themselves in the other layers. Even though it was not some moment of great joy for me, because I don't have a great affection to the character, I thought it was quite well executed.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I actually, like, it was well executed. I will give you that. I would have been probably preferred it if it wasn't K. Rool, though, because one, I don't think K. Rool's a good character. I know there are people who have reverence. There's also people who think those DKC games are like the pinnacle of platforming. You're wrong. You're just wrong. You just are. There's so much bullshit in those games. But like, whatever. He's there. They did it. I don't feel like they needed it. I felt like the characters they had been creating were so good. I wanted them to take another stab at creating a character, creating something iconic. Like, they didn't need to try to redeem another Rare character. They could have, like, the ones they had made were good on their own. I would have liked to see them take another stab at that, but whatever. They did it, and fine. Make the Banandium root evil. Let that get down there. And the
that's kind of what I said. I was thinking maybe it was going to be, this thing that grants wishes is not necessarily good, and it may be, like you said, another Kong had gone down there, and it was going to be bad. So you had to fight like a kind of evil, like DK kind of figure, and beat him. But they said they went with. It went with this, which I think, it probably works on impact. It lets you do some fun musical references, like you get that was, for me, the undisputed strong point of those series. Of those games, the DKC series, was the soundtrack. And so when K. Rool first emerges, you get a reference to Crocodile Cacophony, the final boss fight from the second game, which is great. And then you get the Gangplank Galleon callback, when with the actual boss fights that come later. So, there's definitely good to it. I'm not quite the intended audience for this, even though I was 10 when I played the first game. I'm not quite right. But I assume there's plenty of people who have got a good kick out of it. And like I said, points for, I feel like, almost canonising Smash a bit. I'd say, that's a cool moment. We should actually do that in a game.
Right. That is done well. I think a lot of the physical slapstick comedy in this game is really well executed. And a lot of the writing is good, which is weird because DK doesn't really talk. There's lots of little jokes that I think actually work super well, that I'm very, very pleased with, that make me happy. I'm trying to find one. Here we go. Yeah. So we have a world AG who wrote about this sequence. As someone who's a few dozen hours younger than the original Donkey Kong Country, the first game I played in the series is the Wii version. This means I have no nostalgia for DK games of the 90s, so King K. Rool is lost Lenore to me. This means that when he came out of the planet's core and booted Void Kong out of the way, I actually was a bit crestfallen. The game had been hyping up Void Kong, and I was expecting a one-wing angel version of this monkey. So when the king comes out of nowhere, then there's this another level where my enemy has changed. The planet core level was fun, and I really did like that they went to the bother of making the enemies Kremlin based. But
the funniest thing about that is actually hearing that I don't know how restored they are or whatever, but like very authentic sound effects. Those noises of killing the enemies in the original games just coming back. It's surreal. It was surreal to hear them in the game.
It's an extreme rare sound effect style too, of just like, I don't know, get one of the engineers to go in there and make weird noises into a microphone. And so you get like shit like that. And it's like, what the fuck is that? But either they restored it or somebody went in front of a microphone and did that shit again. But to finish it, Planet Core's level was fun. I'd like they made the bother of making the enemies Kremlin based. And what he means by that is enemies you've seen all game, you suddenly realized were like fossilized Kremlings. And that includes some of the flying enemies where it was like they were the birds, like whose name I can't remember.
Neki, I want to say.
Yeah.
They're all awful names.
Oh, yeah, they're terrible.
So the problem is I could have the wrong awful name, but if it's awful, you're on the right track.
It's a bit of a massive ball that Gorilla Bananza should punch out of the way. Was a mystery to me that I was punching it and all the other skills from all the other creatures, but not the fully charged up version. I looked up how to do the move up online at the end. And at the end, I played the elephant Bananza most by far. Yeah, because the elephants.
Oh, yeah, he's so overpowered. I mean, especially we're talking post-game and mopping stuff up.
Yeah.
It's kind of the ripcord, you know what I mean? Of just
I know there's a banana here around here.
I've made a good faith effort to find the fourth fractone that's like camouflaged.
Oh, that fucker, yeah.
So it's like, it's time to burn the forest down.
Right.
We're doing this. Activate. And then, just earn a bunch of money while you're at it if you've activated that last skill or so. And then, So, the elephant was just so overpowered at all times, really. But, especially if you looking to do the 100% without really taking too much time over it.
I did like that we returned to New Donk City. Which is the only tie-in to Mario content. Is that, well, with the exception of the Wrecking Crew stages. Which were...
Yeah, that's kind of like a spiritual reference, but it's not necessarily like a hard one, whereas like, this is New Donk City. This, it's very recognisably that place, that kingdom from Odyssey, and, we get to see it all overtaken by banana mush, and the K Rule statue comes out, and you gotta
it's
go
transformed into K Rule form because he has the power of the Banandium root. So like signs get changed to be K Rule themed and stuff.
Is that why? Because in Odyssey, there I think that one of the streets was like K Rule Avenue or whatever, and it's like, did that just not get changed back? Because why would you name it after him?
I guess. I mean, it depends. When did these happen canonically? Like, we don't know if that's the same Pauline. Like,
no. We've already broached this subject a bit, haven't we? It doesn't seem like it makes that much obvious sense. But so just go with it.
It's she keeps talking about her grandma, which I was hoping we'd get to meet, and it would just be regular Pauline. It'd be like, oh, okay, that all makes sense now. Fine, we did it. We got there. But we never actually meet her. We just know that she books her daughter a singing performance, and then when her daughter's like, I'm gonna go claw down to the bottom of the Earth's core, she's like, that's cool, have fun. Or granddaughter, excuse me. My grandma's gonna be so worried about me. I think she's got bigger concerns. Her city got turned into a crocodilian hellscape covered in rotten banana goo. That's the other thing. K. Rool just wants to turn all the golden bananas into goo and then rot them because he eats rotten banana goo. Which is that like from the DKC games? I don't remember him wanting rotten bananas specifically.
I guess the DKC games, at least like the first one, all I can ever think of is just he wants to nick them. Like, right. That's it. It's just like, again, weirdly, he gets there in a pirate ship. He pillages the DK's island of bananas, but he's not a pirate in that one. You've got to wait to the second one to see him actually in the pirate gear. It was, so I guess what we didn't know is that he didn't just want to nick them. He wanted to let them get overripe before eating them. That's
so weird. Such a weird life goal.
The other thing I did think of when it happened, when the eye opens and the punch is delivered, is I did think about a game I haven't played, but you've described it to me very many times, Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah.
When Andros is revealed, as Andros was behind everything, apparently.
Literally. He was literally behind a statue. You saw the whole game.
So it is one of it felt kind of, having not seen that, and I think that is considerably more nonsensical from what you've said.
Oh yeah,
and like I said, K. Rool is like lightly foreshadowed in this. At least something,
right.
is foreshadowed with the notion that there's another person has gone down there in the past and been sealed off and whatnot. So it isn't that silly, but it almost feels like a little bit of a weird tribute to their past with Rare, just having the series arch villain get kind of crowbarred in late. So you can kind of take it as a meta thing on that level.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me, but like I kind of wish they had taken the opportunity to build up a new character, because they're on a real hot streak with character creation in this game. But I thought the New Donk City level, it was hard. Like there's some legitimately tough stuff in this game from a platforming standpoint, where it's like, y'all, you were on something with some of these. These are not easy. Some of the rehearsals, especially the eel rehearsal, is quite a tough level.
The thing is, there's a good tradition with these sorts of games. I think really Galaxy 2, I think, is the beginning of this. The like with the Grandmaster Galaxy or whatever, where it's like, okay, we're really gonna put you through the your paces here. You've got to be on it if you're gonna beat this. It's gonna be a gauntlet. It's protracted. There's no checkpoints. And you're just going to have to do it, right? And that carried from Galaxy 2 into 3D Land, into 3D World. And I think, for some reason, I'm really kind of fuzzy on the Odyssey one, but I'm pretty sure there was one.
Yeah, there was one. It was, I can't remember what it was called, but it's the one where you had to use all the forms.
Yeah, it's just for whatever reason, it hadn't stuck in the memory quite so much as the others, or maybe I didn't lose a million lives to it like I did. But it was very much keeping up that tradition, wasn't it? And it's different, obviously, because it's more kind of, I guess compared to at least the non-Odyssey ones, because it is very like Bananza. It's based around the Bananza forms very much.
Right.
So, which kind of fits in with some of the other post-game stuff, obviously, with the rehearsals where it's about this kind of Bananza, and really kind of, I thought that I quite liked them from the point of view that I felt like I talked about this on previous occasions, where certain aspects of the game where you might see a concept, one of those 3 banana challenge like portal areas, and it's like, yeah, that was fun, but I felt like you could have gone a little further, been a little harder. The Bananza rehearsals really feel like that's where they're doing it, right? It's like, here we know the form that you're going to be. We're kind of saying to you might want to max out these skills as much as you can, at least.
Except for the eel one, where it's all of them.
Yeah. And then it's like, let's really put it to the test now. Let's make you use all the things that those forms can do and make it kind of challenging. So I feel like, that they kind of satisfied it, especially some of the ones I didn't use that much, like the zebra. Mm-hmm. Like I generally would just use that to to just charge, just get over the bridge that's, you've got to be fast to get over. Or, sometimes it might be in the middle of a fight, like just quickly switch to the zebra to close the distance and then switch to somebody else. But generally speaking, I didn't use it that much. But then there, it's like, you've got to use it. It's built around it. all the different things of like, oh, well, it can run over water and all, like, how do you kind of climb up a tower of water, like, and all these extra challenges and stuff they put in there. Like, yeah, you're really kind of taking it as far as you can take it there. That's what I liked about those areas.
I think some of the timed ones, though, are a little too tight. There's one where it's like you have to do it in 20 seconds, with 20 seconds remaining, and the closest I was ever able to get. So I got it, but like the closest I ever got, or the best I ever got, was 18 seconds left. And like, okay, I think I could see a min-max take another second or two off, but I think you're really talking about a fairly complicated piece of platforming where there's essentially a 3-second buffer between like the best you can execute and passable to get the second banana. It's like, man, y'all could have given a little more slack on some of these. These are rough. Was it Darker Side of the Moon was the one in Odyssey? I feel like that was the
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
So like there's some of the timed stuff I feel like wasn't quite right here. Some of the boss fights felt a little not bad, but just like
they're seldom the highlights of these games. Not to minimise it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, because it's part of the game. They made it part of the game, and they made you do a lot of them twice.
Right.
So, like, it's absolutely a standard that you can hold them to in an absolute sense of, like, maybe you think these should be better. I didn't think they were, that bad. I was kind of impressed the way they brought one of them back. I was like, okay, like some of these bosses fights you fight, like, I'm going to fight this guy again, right? Like Grumpy Kong, for instance, and Poppy. You're like, they built up this character. There's no way that's the last time I'm fighting them, right?
Right.
And yes, you fight them again later on, an iterated, kind of version of that fight. When the thing from I think it's the canyon layer comes back, where you're like chucking bombs into the middle, I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, the mixer.
How did you squeeze another encounter out of this, putting it, in the fairground, the theme park feast layer? I'm like, wow, I'm almost impressed, but also kind of disappointed in you.
Yeah.
For finding a way to bring that back. So it's like, there's this sort of commitment to iterate on the boss. I think some of them gain a bit more from being iterated on than others. Some of them it's like, oh yeah, if you actually make this a bit trickier, I can kind of see the point of it more. Others were just kind of like, okay, we're just doing this again. But as I said, for me, a lot of the time they're not like that big of a highlight. Looking at Odyssey or Galaxy, I don't think they're outright, poor or a detraction from the experience, but I don't think they add as much to it as maybe you'd like. I do think they probably add more to it than, say, like the bosses in Super Mario Brothers Wonder for the most part. I mean, they were real non-entities, some of that. I felt like, it was bringing a bit more to the party.
Right.
Than and indeed, some of the new Super Mario Brothers games, or I adore Super Mario 3D World, but like just bopping boom boom for the millionth time, or fucking Bowser's really slow car. I mean, they're not highlights of the game, are they?
No,
they're not. So it's just like I don't want to dismiss it as a legitimate criticism, because it is one. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe I'm just inured to that element of it at this point, and I wouldn't say it was especially egregious here. And I did think the finale with K. Rool was quite satisfying. Some of that more from a scenario point of view, perhaps, than just the actual boss fights themselves. But I felt like it was it gave it a sense of a build-up and something, on a large scale, something suitably epic happening that these games haven't always, kind of crossed that threshold. I would say, get Galaxy 2. I love that game. But it's like, you got a pretty cool final kind of gauntlet to Bowser. You kind of fight the regular Bowser fight, and then it's like, okay, here we go. This is the real thing. This is like super cosmic Bowser. And it lasts like 5 fucking seconds because it's really easy.
Right.
The choir's barely even started up and he's dead. And it's just like, no, this is much preferable to that, where you can give it that sense of occasion and the sense of climax that just doesn't.
Yeah. How I think I've said the stuff I want to say. You got anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I was pretty satisfied with it overall. I felt like the post game definitely added some things that took because like I said, you've got that.
We actually have an email on that.
We've got some mechanical, elements, gameplay elements that I feel like we're just kind of waiting to be more fully explored, as I said. And in the post game, I think they did that. Even something that's as kind of fairly, not exactly winning any sort of imagination awards as like the gauntlet against the regular enemies. I thought it made me anyway, engage in a little bit of problem solving that I hadn't quite done before, where it's like, okay, moment to moment switching Bananza forms for like what's the most efficient and dependable way to get through these encounters fast. Because again, a lot of the time you don't necessarily have a big time pressure, but with this gauntlet of things, sometimes maybe I do it quite easily. But then other times it just, there's a random element to this, physics-based elements, like it doesn't always pan out that way. So what I needed was a strategy that was efficient, that could not go wrong, right? You just perfected it. And then the switching of the Bananza forms to kind of achieve that, right? So I'd be doing stuff like, okay, I'm in the preceding challenge in this sequence of challenges in the Ingot Isle where you're killing enemies on a timer. And I would switch into the zebra form in the challenge before to like finish off the last enemy so that you spawn in the next one as the zebra straight away, and you can get on with killing those things that those kind of they're like heads that leave a trail and like eat shit. Like just getting to do stuff like that. Like in the regular game, it's not really putting you under enough pressure to even think about stuff like that. I enjoyed the fact that it took you to places like that.
Cool. Bikonite asks, I've beaten both Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I haven't felt the need to play past the credits. Is it worth it to go back into both? If you've done most of the stuff in Xenoblade and you don't feel the urge to go explore anymore, yeah, I totally get that. Especially given where that story goes. But for Bananza, it says Bananza has more bananas, but my skill tree is almost maxed already. I don't think the reward for getting all the bananas, especially because to get them you have to get all the fossils, is really is really commensurate with the work.
The 100% that we should really distinguish between like post game and 100%,
right?
Because, like, there's stuff in the post-game that's unique to the post-game. Well, I already mentioned some of it. Those challenges in the Ingot Isle, the rehearsals where the Bananza Elders are, and then the final one at the planet's core. That's unique content. Right? And that's, now they do introduce some gating that's banana-based to actually get to the rehearsals at that point. But, I mean, if you've done that much of the skill tree, you're probably going to pass those gates pretty easily, or certainly all but one of them.
I was there before I even beat the game.
So, I would say, on that basis, maybe you don't need to worry about getting every fossil, getting every banana, but it might well be worth having a look at those unique post-game elements. Because like I said, they are different and they are going to push it. They're going to put you to a bit more of a robust test than other stuff in the game has. And you might find that's not really what you're looking for from it, but I think it's worth trying. Now, doing everything is a whole other deal.
Yeah. And then Xenoblade, like I said, whatever. All right, I think we got through most of our email. I've pretty much said everything I want to say, so why don't we go ahead and wrap it up with some music?
Absolutely.
Oh, I was going to let you announce this
one.
Oh,
no, sorry. No, because you had a suggestion and I have not been able to, find something more apt myself. I think, generally speaking, it's quite a strong soundtrack. I would have liked to hear more of it while I was playing it, but there was just no way I was going to be able to, kind of put as much time in as I did without playing portably, where the sound's either going to have to be quiet or just not really audible at all. So yeah, definitely certain things I heard more than others, I guess you could say. Some of the Bananza themes kind of tickle a little bit, because, you know, you might only hear like the very beginning of them quite a lot. Like I said, especially the way I used the zebra,
Right.
a lot of the time was like, you know, fleeting. Although the thing, there's
That one's
something
actually pretty good because zebra.
Oh, well, that's the thing. There's something like charmingly, like genuinely kind of childlike about when you just chant in the name. It's just like, okay, we've got, you know, a young girl here, and there's like a song about a zebra. What's it going to be? Zebra, 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 zebra.
It's so ridiculous. I love it. I really think they nailed Pauline's character. It's so good.
I did enjoy that, but you know, I feel like there was, and I'd say this is emblematic of the whole game. There was this ability to weave in references to stuff from the past, but it did feel like it had its own identity, and specifically very much a DK identity of its own. There wasn't another Mario game, and yeah, there's stuff you can hear and it'll remind you of Odyssey or something, but it really does, the whole game, the mechanics, the characters, the soundtrack, all of it is like, this is very much a DK thing, but it's like its own thing. And that is something pointedly, and we could, all the stuff we could say where this didn't live up to this sort of standard. DK64 did not have that for me at all. I didn't play it at the end of the 90s. I played it, I think it was around about 2013.
That could have been a Banjo-Kazooie game. Yeah.
It was very nostalgic because it reminded me so much of playing Banjo in the 90s, but that's what it was, Banjo with a Donkey Kong polygonal model. Like, it just, whereas this is not Mario with a Donkey Kong polygonal model. It's not Banjo-Kazooie. It's not DKC. Even with the references, even with the ending, it's his own thing, but it is very Donkey Kong at the same time. That the power, you know, the move set, all the you know, that he's got, it all just comes together. Yeah, it's his own thing, and I think they really, really nailed that. And I don't, maybe it can be like Luigi's Mansion, where they hand it off to somebody else and it can keep going and be really successful that way. Maybe it'll just be a one-off. I don't know. I feel like certainly they'll keep leveraging the DK character for a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's obvious. I mean, in the interviews that I think we had an email referencing the developer interviews and stuff. And I mean, they pretty much just come out and say it, right? Like Koizumi just comes to the group and says, look, we want a game that's going to leverage the DK character. Like, that's the point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so clearly that is commercially a lot of what's at work here, but whether it's necessarily in these kinds of games from here on out, who knows? Because, I mean, look at how long this took with, like, you know, it's starting as a Switch 1 game several years ago, and then, you know, it takes all this time to sort of, you know, develop into this. I don't know how quickly you can kind of iterate or, you know, kind of sequelize something like this, but I think it is definitely the start of something for the character, branching out from this sense of identity that they've kind of forged here.
Yeah. All right. So the actual song. So we talked about it, and for a spoiler cast, it basically opens up everything. And like the credits music to this is not something we would usually want to use in an episode, at least not years down the road, because it is.
Hey, it's been a month. That's plenty.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a big, expansive song. It sort of is the conclusion of Pauline's character arc. She basically tells you the story of the game in the song to a certain degree. It's got some musical callbacks, but it's also just a really well done song. It's fun. It's cheesy, but it's cheesy in a fun way. So we're gonna go with Breaking Through. This is the music that plays on the true credits of this game, not the one that's got all the weird, goofy names for K. Rool wrecks the whole shit.
Which is just Gangplank Galleon again, right?
Yeah. This is Breaking Through, and on that, I think it's time for us to go and end this marathon session. Bye, everybody.
Yep. Never been fresher.
so fast and deep. All these things wild and new to see. On my own, far from home, I was scared alone. When your beat showed the way to me. We're breaking through, down to the core. No stopping us, not anymore. Inside the storm, I found the key. Your beat rang out, my voice has been released. Hear it call, it's whispering truth. This melody in harmony will strike a chord that's gonna break us free. When it all seems so dark and bleak, when the whole looks so cold and deep, I hold tight, leave it all, just let go and fall. Let your beat light the way for me. We're breaking through, down to the core. No stopping us, not anymore. Inside the cage, in the beast, your beat rang out. My voice has been released. Hear it call, it's shouting the truth. Just sing with me. This melody will strike the chord that's gonna break us free. Look at us, so big and small, two together through it all. Heart of gold, a wish come true. You and me, unbreakable. We're breaking through, right to the core. No stopping us, not anymore. I'm heading home to city streets. Your beat now mine. Our dreams at last unleashed. You and me, my hand in your hand. Our two voices entwined in a crescendo, spiraling up, rising forever. You and me, we set the rhythm.